The Israelite army was stuck, frozen in fear, outnumbered, outarmed, out of options. But one man refused to wait for a miracle. He chose to be one. 1 Samuel 14, verses 13 to 23, records one of the boldest acts of faith in all of Scripture. It's a story that reminds us of the power of unwavering belief in the face of overwhelming odds. Jonathan, the son of King Saul, found himself in a seemingly hopeless situation. The Philistine army loomed large, their numbers and weapons far surpassing those of the Israelites. But Jonathan saw something beyond the physical reality before him. He saw an opportunity for God to move. In a decision that would change the course of history, Jonathan chose to act. He didn't wait for reinforcements or a divine sign. Instead, he decided to sneak over to the Philistine outpost with just one other person and trust that the Lord would act on their behalf. No army, no backup, just courage and an unshakable faith in God's power. Picture the scene. Jonathan, accompanied only by his armor-bearer, began to climb. Using his hands and feet, he scaled the rocky terrain towards the enemy camp. The Philistines, likely amused at first by the audacity of these two men, soon found themselves facing an unexpected and fierce attack. As Jonathan reached the top, something extraordinary happened. The Philistines began to fall before him. His armor-bearer, following close behind, finished off those who remained. 2 men against an entire military garrison. And yet they kept moving forward, their faith propelling them into what should have been certain death. Why would Jonathan take such a risk? Because he understood something we often forget. Victory doesn't depend on numbers, but on faith. He knew that with God on his side, he was never truly outnumbered. Then the unthinkable happened. Panic spread through the Philistine army like wildfire. God sent an earthquake, shaking not just the ground, but the very foundations of the enemy's confidence. Confusion erupted among their ranks. In a twist that only God could orchestrate, the enemy began destroying itself from the inside out. The Bible describes it vividly. Then panic struck the whole army. It was a panic sent by God. Let that sink in for a moment. Jonathan's act of faith triggered a domino effect that disrupted an entire army. Not because he was strong, but because he trusted in a strong God. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a divine intervention, sparked by the courage of one man who dared to believe that God could do the impossible. Maybe you're facing your own Philistine camp right now. Perhaps you're staring at a situation that feels insurmountable, a challenge too big for one person to face. It could be a health crisis, a financial struggle, or a relationship that seems beyond repair. But Jonathan's story shows us something powerful. When faith climbs, heaven moves. Your situation might look hopeless from a human perspective, but God specializes in the impossible. He's waiting for someone to step out in faith, to be the catalyst for his miraculous power to be displayed. Remember, Jonathan didn't have special powers. He wasn't a superhero. He was just a man who chose to trust God when everything around him said it was foolish to do so. And that trust changed everything. So what's your next move? Will you stay frozen in fear like the rest of the Israelite army? Or will you be the one who steps out in faith? Here's the challenge. Climb, even if you're alone, even if it's steep, even if everyone else thinks you're crazy. Your act of faith, no matter how small it might seem, could be the key that unlocks God's power in your situation. Don't wait for the miracle. Be the miracle. Take that first step. Make that phone call. Forgive that person. Start that project. Do whatever God is nudging you to do, no matter how impossible it seems. Because when you move in faith, you're never moving alone. The God who shook an entire army for Jonathan is the same God who stands with you today. He's just waiting for someone bold enough to trust him. So climb. Your Philistine camp awaits, and who knows, your act of faith might just shake the foundations of your impossible situation and pave the way for a victory beyond your wildest dreams. Thank you for listening. Now go out there and be a Jonathan in your world. The next great story of faith could be yours.